How's it going, guys? Welcome to Audio Addiction. We have the Cold Stairs with us, and he can say his name and what he does in the band.
Hey, this is Chris Tapp, and I am the guitar player and the singer in this band.
Awesome. So, Chris, the first question I have is the most important one. How did you start the band, and how did you get your members?
Well, it's just Brian and myself. So it's just a drummer and myself, and
Hmm.
we played in another band prior to this that was a four piece that was doing pretty well, and it was kind of the retirement band. When that band stopped, we said we were finished, but we got bored, and so a couple months later we played. We had a friend that had a gig that asked us to open. I was like, man, we don't have a band. So we didn't add any other members because we were intentionally trying not to have a band. But the gig went well, and things just kind of took off from there. So been playing together about 10 years now.
That's awesome. Did you ever feel like at maybe after like the first time you guys played as a twosome, like did you ever feel like oh we need to add more people on, or did you just want to kind of keep it to just you and your drummer?
Yeah, no, I've wanted to at times. We auditioned some bass players, and I really wanted an organ player. I thought
Oh, tight.
a guitar and an organ and drums would be killer, but um, uh, because we were doing the two piece for probably about a year before we made those considerations, I was able to kind of figure out a way to play the bass with the guitar myself, and then
Oh,
at
that's
that
awesome.
point, yeah, and at that point we'd kind of come up with a formula for writing songs in that way and as a two piece. So, but at that point, it was like, yeah, we tried. I mean, we had a couple great bass players, and shout out to the couple guys that did try to play with us, but I don't know, it just didn't work at that point.
Awesome, awesome. The next question I have, I saw that you guys got shouted out by Joe Bonamassa. He's a fantastic guitar player. So I guess how did that happen? It's more of a curious thing for me to like know about something that like where you find out about where he finds out about something and just is like, wow, I gotta give a shout out to them. So I guess you must have been super stoked about that. And like, I guess how did that basically transpire?
Yeah, I didn't see that coming actually, and I'm not for sure exactly how Joe heard of us originally. I'm gonna have to ask him that. We had a song in a playlist that I think he may have had a song in as well, and he may have heard us on Spotify and identified us that way. But there's a funny story I'll tell you real quick. About a year prior to him giving us a shout out, I teach guitar to kids locally here in the
Awesome.
town, Evansville, and he dropped in the store, in the guitar store that I teach at, and I was upstairs. He was doing Guitar Safari or whatever, trying to buy guitars, and I missed him. And
Oh man.
I was pretty irritated at the guy that owned the shop. Because man, you could have at least said, this,
Joe
you might have,
Bonamassa's here, like,
yeah,
want to
yeah.
come
I
out
mean,
and say what's up?
I would have liked to meet him. It kind of broke my heart at the time, but so a year later, he shouts us out. He sent me a message and said he was a really big fan and that he really liked the songs, and that was enough. That anytime I think at this stage in the game, when you have somebody that you admire that is a fan of yours, it's very humbling. Anyway, but yeah, when he did that on Instagram, we kind of lit up pretty quick, got us some notoriety, and that was great.
I can imagine that's quite an accomplishment. And I mean that was partially some of the reason why I found out about you guys. Obviously, shouts to Charlie, but I would I've been a fan of his guitar style for a while. Obviously, as you can tell, I have a guitar here,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I was like, I'll have to give these guys a listen. And then, like, not a couple weeks later, I get an email saying, like, hey, do you want to interview him? So I was like, that's sick. Just coincidental, but very cool at the same time. So, um, happy you guys could be on. But the next thing is obviously, I'm sure you have toured over your time. But what are some favorite venues or cities you guys like to, happen to visit when you're touring?
Great question. Yeah, man. There's so many places we've been fortunate to play. When we were younger, when we first started playing in the band prior to this, when we played a lot of dumps, and everybody
Sure.
pays their dues. And I've been around for a while. We've played those places, but the Cold Stairs, we've really been fortunate to play a lot of places we loved. The Viper Room, we're fixing to play out out there again in a couple weeks. I love the Viper Room. We played Pianos and Mercury Lounge in New York City. I love both
Nice.
of those. Memphis, I love Memphis in general. Our friend runs the Lafayette's Music Room in Memphis. That's a great venue. Um, and then, we played some really cool festivals too. We played Telluride Music Festival in Telluride, Colorado. Yeah. And that was fantastic. That was a blast. So I would say, I hate to be cliche. There's some. I was going to say L.A., New York, and Memphis, but Springfield, Illinois is a really rock and roll place,
There
and
we
we
go.
we played a festival there and loved it. And then we just played Omaha, Nebraska, for the first time this year, and in a lot of those places, you know the names, but I would have never said, "Hey, man, I want to go there." But we played a blues festival and a rock festival type thing up there, and it was fantastic. So I love it. I love getting out and getting out of town in general and playing
Hitting the
and meeting
road.
people. Yeah, man,
Aw-
it's great.
Awesome. Well, that's always cool because whenever I get a chance to travel, I always love to check out cool venues and cities and hopefully catch a sick show. But um, the next question, Chris, to follow up the venues, what was the last show that you attended that you didn't play?
Oh my goodness.
Putting you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's great. Great questions. I think the last show that I saw was Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi in Nashville. I saw them at I can't remember. I don't think it was the Ryman, but it could have been. No, it wasn't the Ryman. I saw them at another venue, maybe T-Pack in Nashville. That's the
Okay.
last show. I took my wife down there, and she had been to a lot of rock and roll shows. That was they're fantastic live, and that's a great show. That's the last one I think I've seen.
Awesome, awesome. Next question, Chris, the big one as well too. What are some of your musical influences? Who do you draw from musically?
Um, it's weird, I'm a white kid from Kentucky, and I have grown up listening and with a infatuation and love for um, black singers from Mississippi, and it's probably somewhat cliche. I love all kinds of music from all kinds of countries and cultures, but um, early on in my life, I got into even like whenever I was 7 and 8, I got into like Jerry Lee Lewis,
Oh,
uh,
nice. Yeah.
and I was playing piano. Then my grandfather got me playing piano, and from there, I kind of listened to early rock and roll. And from early rock and roll, by the time I was 13 or 14, I was listening to Booker White and Son House and a lot of the early, blues guys. And I was fascinated by a couple of things. Around that time, also was grunge, and you had Nirvana and some of these things.
Yeah.
And I liked that it sounded dangerous and a little rough sounding. It wasn't Yngwie Malmsteen and super articulate, and
Yeah.
it was kind of gnarly. And that connection of Soundgarden and those kind of bands with the connection of the early blues stuff, because Sunhouse and those guys were really
Yeah.
rough and wasn't perfect and clean, but it had lyrically this weight to it. We always, it always struck me lyrically. And especially we've had this conversation before with some other people, but you have an album that'll have a song that's a gospel song, and then you have a song about killing somebody, and then you got a song about Saturday night and a song about Sunday morning, and all those aspects. And I thought it kind of those correlations tapped into that grunge rock movement as well. I just felt like it all, and so those are kind of the two influences that I had, was kind of early blues stuff and then heavy rock stuff from a little bit younger in my life.
That's definitely how I felt like listening to some of your stuff. And usually when I have people on, I try to listen to their music as much as I can before we actually do the interview and stuff. Just because I like trying to do homework and
Yeah.
and understand who I'm interviewing. But um, I definitely felt that sort of side of like what you were talking about, the kind of juxtaposition of like having that like grunge, like aggressive, not doesn't have to be like pristine perfect like you were saying about like Ingve. But at the same point I feel like it's also very poignant in the fact that like you're speaking what's on your heart. You know, we wear your heart on your
Yeah.
sleeve, and I felt very much like that in a lot of the Cold Stare stuff that I listened to. I felt like it was very like, like you sit back in your chair and you're like, man, I could feel that as like an emotional thing, and I think that is definitely cool, and that's probably one of the main reasons why I got into doing stuff like this is because there's a lot of fantastic writers and people who put their you know lyricism and writing onto a piece of paper and then obviously show it to the world and stuff, and that's very cool. And I feel like obviously you've been doing it for a long time, so that speaks volumes for you, but I feel like it was very good stuff, so I was definitely about it when I
Yeah,
first found
man.
out about. But
Yeah, thank you. I'm the same. I'm a big fan of lyrics and stories and songs that take you someplace, you know. But I also always feel like you never know how many times you'll have an opportunity to say something, and especially on a record, you know. I don't know how many records this band will make. I hope we make another 10, but I don't ever want to look back and go, man, I wasn't really honest about that. You know, there's a song about depression on the new record.
yeah,
There's some heavy stuff on there, but that's life. You know, it's if I sing about things that I don't really feel strongly about, I just feel like it'll be very easily, you know, it's easy to decipher that that's fake or that's just not
yeah.
who I am. So,
And
you
I
know,
also feel like that plays into a lot of like the blues mentality of like music and stuff. I feel like, as a genre as a whole, I feel like blues is definitely more along the lines of like, you speak how you feel, and it's like, if you don't say it now, it's like almost like you're holding back. And I feel like with a lot of blues stuff, it's, you say it, you mean it, and, people listen to it, they feel that emotional attachment to it. And
yeah,
so I appreciate that, and I appreciate you as a lyricist for being, you know, honest, as honest as you can be. So definitely
well,
appreciate that, Chris.
thank you, man. Thank you so much.
No problem. And then we're gonna move into the fun stuff. Obviously, we gotta turn it up a little bit. But who have you been listening to recently? What's on your Spotify? What has Chris been listening to lately?
Oh man. You know, we are in some playlists on Spotify and Apple Music with a lot of good bands that I hadn't really heard prior to us kind of playing with those, being in those playlists. White Reaper's new stuff is great. Foles, you know, a lot of the newer stuff I'm into, but I'm listening to flamenco and Spanish
Oh,
guitar,
okay, okay,
and I like a band a lot from Spain called Dead Combo.
okay.
That is kind of like a Spanish rock hooter.
Oh,
Not a lot
okay,
of lyrics, you know. It's a lot of Day of the Dead imagery and kind of super vibey. I'm a super big fan of Mark Lanigan,
nice.
and
Yeah.
I like Mark's new record. And then I'm always discovering. You know, it's amazing talking about early blues stuff. I find somebody new almost every week that I've never heard of before, and especially now with Spotify and digital stuff, it's so easy to go down a rabbit hole,
Oh
and
yeah.
you know you find something you're like, wow, I've never heard that. Where did that come from? And then you may also like, you know, and then you find all these other things. So I've been listening to still listening to a lot of acoustic blues, early stuff, and um, always go back into Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. I really like a band that's kind of a odd band from the '90s called Darlahood. They only
Okay.
had one record. They had a guy named Luke Janklow fronted that band, but it kind of sounds like the Black Crows meet Black Sabbath. You know, it's
Okay.
kind of heavy, but it's kind of bluesy and rootsy too. So,
You gave me some
nah,
good homework, Chris. I'll have to
yeah,
check all of those out, and I have
yeah,
to I have to agree with when you find one band and then they have a bunch of suggested bands, and then
I know.
you're like 2 hours in and you've already got new stuff. And so I mean, obviously my whole channel runs on a lot of that sort of thing. So you're definitely gonna give me a good fair week's worth of homework. Uh,
Yeah.
but my next thing, Chris, is a fun one as well. If you could pick a song to cover, what would it be?
Oh, we're kind of at a point in our career where we've been thinking about doing a cover record. I thought about, um, I've been thinking about some different stuff. I was trying to think. Yesterday, I was listening to Sister Rosetta Thorpe, and there's a song. And I can't think of the name of it now. So let me think of another good one. Uh, nobody's ever tackled Black Dog by Led Zeppelin, and
Oh,
I think everybody's afraid of that one
yeah,
because of the reverence for the band, and I'm like that too. But I'm at a point now where I think that the majority of kids under 20 don't know what rock. They don't know Led Zeppelin, and they don't know what rock and roll sounds
true.
like. So I
Very
think
true.
if you do a cover of that, or a new band does that, I think it's almost an introduction, the same way that Led Zeppelin covered a lot of the early blues singers, and they were a gateway drug to those people. I think that bands like Greta Van Fleet, although they get a lot of slack for it, those guys and us and some others that have those influences have an opportunity to turn some younger bands, younger people on to. My son's 12, and he listens to Zeppelin, but that's because of me. But yeah, I'd like to try to take on something that's difficult. Fire and Water by Free is another one I'd
Oh, yeah.
love to do a cover of. So
Well, you gave some good ones, and if you guys are watching, you have some suggestions, leave them in the comments. I'm sure they'll check them out and see what works. But I have to agree with the Zeppelin one. There's a tall mountain to climb, but I feel like you guys could do it a good justice, and it's cool to see, hopefully rock taking a little bit more of a resurgence, within the past couple of years. So hopefully that
yeah.
can take it that much further. But the next thing, Chris, another fun one as well. Got to ask, favorite food to eat? What's the go-to meal?
Oh man, I'm trying to be careful now because I'm about to go on tour, and I'm trying to, my age, we're all trying to get in shape and
Try to
stay
stay in
good.
shape.
So
I got you.
a Greek salad probably right now. You know, I love Italian food, so any kind of like Italian salad or Greek salad. There's a feta cheese Greek salad that's about 5 miles from my house. That's amazing.
There we
That's
go.
that's probably it right now.
Awesome, awesome, Chris. Next question. You sing, you play guitar, but if there was another musical instrument you could add to your arsenal, what would it be?
Well, I can kind of play everything except for drums. I'd love to be able to play drums. If I might would put my drummer, do the Prince thing and just do all that stuff on the album. If I could do that, but yeah, I can't play drums at all. But
I think it's the hand feet coordination that gets me.
yeah,
I've literally talked to a mass amount of guitar players in my YouTube career, and I feel like every guitar player has said drums, and I feel like it's come to the culmination of not being able to use your hands and feet at the same
yeah,
time. But I don't know. I can't speak for everybody, but I know for myself, cannot keep a beat
yeah.
in the drumming sense, at least.
I'm great at tapping it down on my leg or beating it. I can show him the pattern I want to play. But yeah, that's it's a lot of drummers actually start to learn to play guitar and get good on guitar, but not a lot of guitar players. Jack White, I think,
Yeah.
plays the heck out of drums. There's a couple guys that do that, but not me. I can't do it.
There's a select few. I'd probably
Yeah.
say Dave Grohl's in there as well.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
But
I think Dave can probably do anything he wants to do.
very true, very true. The next question, Chris, if you could compile a dream tour, who would be on the lineup? I feel like it would be remiss to say your band is on it as well, but just in case.
Yeah. Um, I would put obviously I have we have to play on there just because I'd love to play with these guys. Probably Rage Against the Machine's getting back together
Yeah,
next year. I'll take them. I'll take Queens of the Stone Age,
good one.
and then I'll do. I'll probably put Dead Combo and
Ooh,
Mark Lanigan on there too. I think that
ooh,
would be a pretty cool. And the Who's. I don't know if you've heard the Who's new stuff. Those couple songs I've heard off that are great. I would
yeah.
love to play.
I'm excited. I mean, I feel like they've kind of, I saw them a few years ago with my mom. because they came to Philadelphia, and it was they were fantastic. I had obviously my mom has seen them many times, but I have not. So it was cool to experience like a real, classic, rock band in an arena. It was very cool. So yeah, I have checked out I think maybe one or two of the singles, but I'll have to give the rest of it a listen.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
I
it's
was
coming
pretty
out soon.
amazed. I had a friend of mine say, "Have you heard it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I don't want to hear it," because I'm such a fan of the early stuff. And
Sure,
he goes, "No, man, you need to hear it. It sounds like Quadrophenia, or it sounds like some early stuff, but it's great." I know Black Crows are getting back. Chris and Rich, I guess, are getting back together next year to do some stuff. So it's not really the Black Crows without all those guys, but that would
sure.
be. I'd love to play with them, but um, man, I'd love to do a couple shows with Rage Against the Machine next year. That's for sure.
Yeah, that was quite a cool announcement. Just because I feel like it was kind of out of the blue. I don't think anybody was really expecting it, but that would be very cool. And I would also, hopefully they do some sort of. Imagine they'll do some sort of tour, but hopefully it hits the East Coast because I think the only confirmed one now is like Coachella next year. So
I heard 20
fingers crossed.
shows. I
20
heard,
shows? Okay.
yeah, then maybe that's the rumor. I heard 20 shows for 2020, and that'd be pretty cool. And I hope they haven't lost some of the momentum because that's definitely one of those bands that people need to see to know what rock can be like. And sadly, there's a lot of blues guys I'd love to play with too, but sadly, a lot of my blues heroes are gone. I get the chance to play with Joe next year, and
Awesome.
we're doing the cruise, Italy, France, and Spain with him. So, and then he's got a lineup on there that's a lot of people that I'm very humbled to play with too. So there's a few guys out there still that I mean would love to get Jimmy Page back with somebody and play with him in my lifetime, but
Yeah, absolutely. Or if Zeppelin does anything, that would be. I know it seems like a very much a stretch at this point, but I mean, I
yeah.
feel like we got Rage from the grave. It's. I feel like it's not out of the question, but it seems a little bit more. I would say unlikely, but who knows?
I do crazy things. I get a whim, and if I think of something, I just do it. And I got thinking the other day, how long does Jimmy have? Just people go out early, and you never know. And I know Robert Plant has said he's not doing the Zeppelin thing, so I sent Jimmy a message and said, if he needs a singer, I'm in. Give me a call. I'd love to do it. So you never know.
You never know. But the next thing is kind of we were talking about just like those legendary acts, but um, who puts on just a great live performance in terms of like the bands that you've seen? I'm sure you've seen a lot of bands over your time frame, but what's one that you can remember the most, I guess?
Black Crows were the band whenever I was really formidable. Those formidable years. They were. I saw a couple shows that were on the Amorica tour, and they were just kind of otherworldly. The Black Crows, Throw It Down. Rage Against the Machine again on Lollapalooza. I was going to get a Coke or something, and I said, "Who's the next band?" They said some rap rock thing. I was like, I don't like that. And I came back in there. It was just completely. I mean, they annihilated me. So those guys, Dole Bramhall is absolutely amazing live. Eric Clapton saw it in at Bridgestone a couple years ago with in Nashville with Dole on guitar and Derek Trucks, and uh, Eric's always got a great band. Um, Yeah, to tell you a couple of odd ones. We played, or not odd, but just kind of maybe not what you'd expect. A band called Thievery Corporation.
They sound familiar.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll have to ring my memory a little bit.
they're kind of like they're kind of like a Massive Attack type thing where it has some electronic elements, but they play with a full band. You
Okay.
know, we played with them at the Ride Festival in Telluride, and it grooves the whole time. Visually, it's a full stage of people playing, but Um, yeah, it's killer. So I like stuff like that too. I like Jamiroquai. I like a lot
Yeah.
of kind of groove stuff in a live setting. Man, it's nothing like getting people dancing. So
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Next question, Chris. If you could pick somebody to collaborate with, whether it be a guest vocalist on your next record or a producer you'd like to work with, who would it be?
it'd have to be Jimmy Page.
Oh, yeah.
I'll, yeah, I'll shoot for the stars. Yeah,
There we
I
go.
would.
Well, you've already
Couldn't get any
kind of
better than
reached
that.
out to him, so hopefully, if he watches this, that would be, well, legendary. But secondly, hopefully it happens. That would be very,
Yeah,
I mean, anything in any quantity would be very cool.
it's a crazy, strange world, man. And these days, you just never know. So it never hurts to try.
Exactly. I feel the same way, so I'm glad you're on that. But the next question, Chris, if you, what are some of your favorite TV shows, movies? What do you like watching in your spare time?
Um, I'm a snob on this stuff. I like basically two genres of music at or film, TV, and at this stage of my life, and it's samurai movies and westerns.
Ooh, okay, okay. I like that.
So I love a lot of. I always feel like that the westerns are kind of like the blues. You never run out of them. You always find something you haven't seen. So I
True.
like a lot of westerns, especially old westerns. But they have a very strong correlation with the samurai films and the kung fu films, and it's a lot of the same stories. It's just different parts of the world. But those two things, and I like the television shows that are kind of in that realm. So I really love Deadwood.
Oh, okay,
Um,
yeah.
I liked Yellowstone that Kevin Costner just did. I like the show on Netflix called Longmire. Um, and just watched a television show that was from the 80s called Shogun.
Ooh, okay,
That's
okay.
based on a novel, and it's based on an Englishman that gets trapped in Japan feudal times. So yeah, I know I should have something cooler now. There's a lot of movies I like that are kind of classic movies. I like classic Hollywood stuff. I don't like a whole lot of new stuff.
I got you. You gotta stick with the what you know and the
Yeah,
classics, and I mean, those are the ones that I feel like are timeless. And
yeah,
it's funny you bring that up because a lot of like early on, like my grandparents are in their 90s now, and they showed us like Casablanca, all those sorts of like old style movies. So I do have a appreciation for film writing now, obviously, and writing back then. But you have to give me some good samurai recommendation movies.
I'll
There's some
send
that
you
I
some.
know, but I'm sure you have a long list of some good ones.
Yeah, yeah, Zatoichi, the blind swordsman, the Ronin. Man, I'm fascinated with those stories and that actor and some of the cinematography from Japan in the '70s just blows away everything that's out now. Um, so yeah, I'm a big fan of those, and it's amazing. It's like you telling the story about your parents. My grandfather was like that. Whenever I was really little, one Sunday afternoon we watched The Magnificent Seven
Oh,
whenever
okay,
I
yeah,
was a little
that's
kid. And
classic.
man, yeah, just I fell in love with it, and I've loved westerns ever since. But
Awesome, awesome. Next question, Chris. If you were trapped on a desert island for the next month and there was one record you could bring with you, what would it be?
um, oh my goodness, probably the best of Blind Willie Johnson.
Oh, okay, okay. Any particular reason why?
I like every song. I like every song he's done to some extent, and it is a difficult listen because the recordings aren't great. So it requires my attention. So if I'm stuck, if I'm really stuck somewhere and I want to get lost in something, I could really stop and listen. And I don't know, I'm in that zone. It could have been a number of records. If you ask me, maybe tomorrow or the day before, but I'm kind of into that
There we
today.
go. This is the answer of Chris at the current moment
Yes,
on
yes.
November the 4th.
That's it. That's it.
But the last thing, Chris, the most important thing, tell them about your band, where they can find you at on the social media, and anything coming up in the next couple months.
Yeah, it's coldstairs.com, and of course Facebook and Instagram, the Cold Stairs. We are touring out on the road in a couple weeks. We're playing the Viper Room on the 20th, and then on the 22nd we are playing in Las Vegas at Counts Vamped, and then we're doing a couple other things while we're in Los Angeles. We're doing some studio stuff, and then we're going to be at Fender Guitar, who I'm endorsing now, and super stoked to be a part of that.
Awesome. Congrats.
Yeah. So we're going to be out there on the 19th, and the rumor is we might you might find us on their Instagram that day. So stay tuned to that. But yep, that's us. We're easy to find.
There we go. Well, obviously, I feel like I would be remiss to not talk about Charlie. Shouts to her. She is the one who hooked this up, and definitely go check out the Cold Stairs. I feel like for myself, as most people know, I'm more into like the heavier metal and stuff like that. But I love getting into like blues, like rock, all that stuff that's like a little bit more, just straight from the heart. Not to say that stuff isn't either, but just
Yeah.
blues has a way of speaking to me that I feel like other genres don't. So go check out the Cold Stairs. Links in the description where you can find out about their band, their music, anything coming up. If you're out in Los Angeles or Vegas, go check them out. I'm sure they'll be doing a lot more touring across the country very soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And if you enjoyed this interview, share it, like it, subscribe. It goes a long way. And thanks, of course, for Chris from the Cold Stairs for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me, man. And we have a lot of metal fans, so that's we grew up in that generation where there's some metal going on. It creeps into the music. There's some heavy stuff in there. So we love the hard rock and the metal too.
There we go. Awesome. Thanks, Chris. And guys, we'll be talking soon.
Thank you.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps out our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.